They counted you out, life knocked you down, but what they didn't realize was this was just the beginning. When your world collapses, it feels like the end, but it's not. It's the moment life gives you a choice to stay broken or to rebuild, step by step. This speech is not for the ones looking for shortcuts. This is for the fighters, for the ones willing to climb, crawl, and claw their way back into life, one step at a time. And make no mistake, rebuilding isn't about becoming who you used to be. It's about rising as someone you never imagined you could become. When your life feels like it's fallen apart, the natural instinct is to resist it. We want to pretend everything is okay, convince ourselves it's not that bad, and hold on to the past like it's still real. But that's the very trap that keeps people stuck. The real first step in rebuilding your life is not action, it's acceptance. Not the kind of acceptance where you give up, but the kind where you fully acknowledge where you are, what has happened, and how you feel about it. Most people skip this part because it's uncomfortable. It means facing the pain head on. It means admitting that you're not okay. It means confronting the very things you've been running from. But this moment of radical honesty is where transformation begins. You can't rebuild what you refuse to acknowledge is broken. You can't change what you're still pretending doesn't hurt. Acceptance doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It doesn't mean it was fair or justified. It just means you've stopped lying to yourself about the state of your life. And the truth is, you can't begin to move forward until you fully plant both feet in the now. Not where you wish you were, not where you used to be, but right here, right now. Acceptance also means releasing the illusion that life will go back to how it was. That version of your life is gone. That season is over. The people who left, the opportunities you lost, the failures you faced, they've already happened. No amount of wishing will rewind the clock. The longer you stay stuck in what was, the harder it becomes to see what could be. Pain multiplies when you resist reality. But when you accept it, the pain becomes a teacher instead of a tormentor. You begin to understand it, you begin to learn from it, you begin to heal. And there's power in saying, this is where I am. I may not like it, I may not understand it, but I accept it. Because once you accept it, you gain control over it. You stop being a prisoner of the past and start becoming the author of your next chapter. You move from being reactive to being intentional. That shift changes everything. You start to see the cracks, not as flaws, but as the space where the light can get in. Acceptance helps you stop clinging to things that no longer serve you. It clears the fog so you can see the truth of your situation. And from there, you can start to make real decisions. This step can be especially difficult because it often comes with grief. The grief of lost dreams, broken relationships, failed plans, or the realization that the life you were building didn't go the way you wanted. And grief is not linear. It comes in waves, but those waves become manageable when you stop resisting them. When you allow yourself to feel, to mourn, to sit in the discomfort, you give yourself the gift of release. Suppressed pain doesn't disappear. It grows in the dark. But pain that is faced, acknowledged, and expressed begins to dissolve. You don't have to stay strong in the way the world defines strength. Real strength is allowing yourself to feel everything and still choosing to rise. Sometimes the hardest person to be honest with is yourself. It's easier to wear the mask, to tell others and yourself that you're fine, but deep inside, you know the truth. And the moment you look in the mirror and say, I'm not where I want to be, but I know I'm capable of more, something begins to shift. That moment is when rebuilding truly begins. Not when the money comes back, not when people come to apologize, not when everything is fixed, but the very second you take ownership of your reality. Acceptance doesn't make the journey easier, but it makes it possible. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You stop expecting life to suddenly make sense, and you start making peace with the present. In that peace, there is clarity, and with clarity comes direction. Most people are lost, not because they don't have potential, but because they're stuck in denial. Acceptance brings you into alignment with truth, and from truth, you can build something unshakable. Letting go is one of the most painful yet powerful parts of rebuilding your life. It's not just about cutting people off or changing your surroundings. It's about releasing the emotional weight that keeps you tethered to your past. We often hold on to things out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear that we won't find better, or fear that we'll regret our decision. But here's the truth. What's meant for your growth won't make you feel small, stuck, or suffocated. If it drains your peace, depletes your energy, or confuses your soul, it's not for you anymore. Letting go doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're making room. The most dangerous things to hold on to aren't always people. They're thoughts. The belief that you're not good enough, the story that your best days are behind you, the mindset that keeps replaying your worst moments like a broken record. These invisible anchors keep you from rising. They trick you into thinking you're moving forward when really you're just spinning in circles. You can't rebuild your life if you're still mentally living in the wreck. That's why you must become ruthless about what stays and what goes, not just in your environment, but in your heart. We hold on to people long after they've stopped showing up for us. We replay conversations trying to find closure that never comes. We beg our memories to give us a different ending. But none of that changes what happened. You can't rewrite the past by obsessing over it. All it does is keep you trapped. The truth is, some people were only meant to be a part of your journey, not the destination. And when someone shows you who they are through their actions, it's not your job to make excuses. It's your responsibility to make decisions. You don't need a dramatic goodbye. Sometimes the most powerful form of closure is silence. Just walking away, not in anger, but in self-respect. We also cling to identities that were built from survival. Maybe you became the overachiever to feel loved. Maybe you kept peace to avoid conflict. Maybe you stayed small because being seen felt dangerous. But now that you're rebuilding, you must ask yourself, is this version of me still serving who I'm becoming? Survival mode has an expiration date. What once protected you is now preventing you. Growth demands a new set of patterns. You must unlearn the behaviors that were rooted in pain and start adopting habits that are grounded in purpose. Letting go is an act of trust. It means believing that your future can be better than your past. That even though you're stepping into the unknown, it's still worth it. It's about giving yourself permission to start again, even if you're scared, even if you're unsure, even if no one else understands. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. You don't have to justify your healing process. Not everyone will come with you, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey, because it wasn't assigned to them. It was assigned to you. Sometimes the hardest thing to release is hope. Hope that someone will change. Hope that you'll get back the time or the love you gave. Hope that somehow the past will make sense. But rebuilding your life means learning to carry hope in a new direction. Hope for new beginnings, hope for deeper connections, hope for peace that doesn't come from external validation, but from internal alignment. When you shift your hope from what you lost to what you can create, you reclaim your power. Letting go is emotional surgery. It hurts, it stings, it makes you question everything. But on the other side of that release is freedom. Freedom to think clearly, to move forward, to dream again. You stop trying to fix things that were never your responsibility to fix. You stop carrying guilt that was never yours to carry. You stop waiting for someone to see your worth because you've finally seen it for yourself. What you let go of makes space for what you truly deserve. When you clear the clutter mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you begin to rebuild on a clean foundation, one that's not built on brokenness, but on boundaries. One that's not based on fear, but on faith. Redefining your identity is one of the most transformative parts of rebuilding your life. When everything falls apart, your relationships, your routines, your sense of direction, it can feel like you've lost yourself. But the truth is, what's actually happened is the shedding of who you were so you can step into who you're meant to become. It's not about creating a fake version of yourself to please others. It's about finally becoming real. When your world changes, your identity has to change with it. You can't keep trying to live through the lens of who you were in a season that no longer exists. That person might have served you then, but now a new version of you must emerge. Too often, people rebuild their lives while holding on to the old blueprint. They say they want change, but they keep identifying as the same person who went through the breakdown. But growth demands a new mindset. It requires you to stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, who am I becoming because of this? That shift in perspective is everything. You begin to step out of the role of victim and into the power of a creator. You stop defining yourself by what happened and start defining yourself by how you choose to rise from it. That is the moment you take your identity back. The past doesn't get to decide who you are. Your mistakes, your traumas, your heartbreaks, none of those are your identity. They are part of your story, but not the whole story. You are not the pain you experienced. You are the strength that carried you through it. When you redefine your identity, you're making a decision to stop letting circumstances define you. You're choosing to build your character from values, from purpose, from a clear sense of who you want to become, not from the debris of what you've lost. This process isn't about perfection. It's not about becoming a flawless version of yourself. It's about becoming a truthful version of yourself. One who's not afraid to own their scars and still choose to stand tall. One who's not trying to prove anything to the world, but is committed to living in alignment with their inner truth. Redefining your identity also means rejecting the labels others have put on you. Maybe someone told you that you'd never succeed, that you were too much or not enough. Maybe you internalized those voices until they sounded like your own. But those labels were lies. And rebuilding your life means rewriting the narrative. You are not broken. You are becoming. When you start seeing yourself differently, everything else follows. Your choices, your boundaries, your vision for the future, all of it begins to evolve. You're no longer chasing validation. You're no longer settling for less. You begin to make decisions that reflect your worth, not your wounds. And slowly, your reality starts to shift. You show up with more courage, more clarity, more conviction, because now you're no longer operating from insecurity. You're rooted in identity, not the identity the world gave you, but the one you discovered within yourself. This is the stage where you decide what values will lead your life. Are you someone who values peace? Then chaos can no longer be your comfort zone. Do you value honesty? Then self-deception must be eliminated. Do you value growth? Then playing small must no longer be acceptable. When you define who you are by your values, you become unshakable. You no longer bend with every storm because your foundation is clear. And the beautiful thing is identity isn't fixed. You get to evolve. You get to outgrow old versions of yourself. You get to shed the skin of who you were to make room for who you're becoming. This is not a quick process. Redefining your identity takes time, patience, and inner work. It requires you to be intentional, to reflect deeply, and to act courageously. You'll be tempted to go back to who you were. Familiar patterns will call you back like an old song. But every time you choose the new you over the old one, you strengthen that new identity. You begin to believe in it, and belief, when repeated enough, becomes reality. The greatest act of power is to declare who you are, not based on what the world has told you, but based on the truth you've uncovered through your own journey. Taking small, consistent steps is the most underrated but powerful way to rebuild your life. It's easy to fall into the trap of waiting for a breakthrough, a moment of intense motivation, or a grand plan that will fix everything all at once. But that moment rarely comes. Real change doesn't happen in dramatic bursts. It happens slowly, quietly, and steadily, one decision at a time. The foundation of a rebuilt life is not speed, It's consistency. You don't climb mountains in one leap. You do it one step at a time. And sometimes that step feels insignificant, but the power is in the repetition. When your life feels broken, you might want to fix everything in a day. You want to wake up and have your confidence back, your peace restored, your direction clear. But life doesn't work like that. Trying to change everything overnight leads to burnout, frustration, and eventually giving up. What works is showing up daily, even if all you can manage is a single tiny step. Maybe that means getting out of bed when you feel numb. Maybe it means drinking water, journaling your thoughts, walking for 10 minutes, or simply choosing not to give up today. These small steps seem irrelevant in the moment, but over time, they build an unshakable foundation. The magic is not in how big your steps are, but in how consistent they become. Repetition builds rhythm, and rhythm builds resilience. When you do something small but meaningful every single day, you begin to rewire your identity. You stop being someone who talks about change and start becoming someone who lives it. And that shift is more powerful than any one-time inspiration. You begin to trust yourself again, and that trust builds confidence, not because you suddenly have it all together, but because you've proven to yourself that you're not giving up. The process of rebuilding isn't glamorous. There's no applause for choosing to read a book instead of doom scrolling, for choosing to walk away from a toxic situation instead of engaging in it, for choosing to wake up early when it would be easier to sleep through the pain. But those small wins compound. They may not make a difference in a day, but over weeks and months, they become the very steps that take you to a different life. You don't need to see the entire path. You just need to take the next right step. And when you do that often enough, the fog begins to lift. A major mistake people make is relying on motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Some days you'll feel inspired and some days you won't. But discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline shows up even on the days when your mind is tired and your heart is heavy. Discipline says, I may not feel like it, but I'm going to take this step anyway. And when you live by discipline instead of motivation, you become unstoppable. You stop negotiating with your emotions and you start leading them. Every time you choose progress over perfection, you build momentum, and momentum is what carries you when the excitement wears off. Most people quit not because they can't do it, but because they expect results too quickly. But growth is invisible before it's obvious. A seed doesn't show signs of life the moment it's planted. It takes time underground. And so does rebuilding. You'll do things for days or weeks that feel pointless, but stay consistent because one day things begin to click. The effort pays off, the steps start adding up, and what once felt like a slow crawl becomes unstoppable progress. Taking small, consistent steps also teaches you patience and humility. It reminds you that change is earned, not given. That healing is not a straight line. That rebuilding your life is not about proving anything to anyone. It's about proving to yourself that you're worth the effort, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when it's lonely, especially then. Because those are the moments when character is built. And character is what sustains you when life tests you again. You are not rebuilding for applause, for perfection, or for instant results. You are rebuilding for peace, for freedom, for alignment. And all of that starts with one small, consistent step repeated over and over again until you become the kind of person who no longer needs to chase change because you've already become it. Building new habits is not just about changing behavior, it's about changing identity. It's one of the most critical parts of rebuilding your life because habits are the invisible architecture of your day. They either pull you closer to who you want to become or keep you stuck in the cycle you're trying to escape. When you're stuck in survival mode or chaos, your habits are usually reaction. You wake up reacting to stress, scrolling through your phone for distraction, avoiding hard decisions, or numbing pain with unhealthy patterns. But rebuilding your life means interrupting that autopilot and consciously constructing a new system, one that supports your future, not your past. The first mistake people make when trying to build new habits is going too big too fast. They want overnight change, so they overwhelm themselves with extreme goals. Wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for an hour, hit the gym 7 days a week, read a book every night. It feels empowering for a moment, but then life happens, you miss a day, feel guilty, spiral into self-doubt, and quit altogether. Sustainable habits are not built from intensity. They are built from consistency. Small, manageable, repeatable actions that you can perform even on your worst days are the ones that lead to real transformation. New habits must align with your values. If you say you value peace, but your daily routine is filled with noise and chaos, that's not alignment. If you say you value growth, but you're not feeding your mind or challenging yourself, that's not alignment. The process of rebuilding involves examining your habits and asking, does this behavior support the person I'm becoming? And if it doesn't, you have to be honest enough to let it go and disciplined enough to replace it with something better. Not perfect, just better. It's also important to understand that habits are not isolated. They're connected to your environment, your emotions, your triggers. If you want to change a habit, change your environment. Make it easy to do the right thing and hard to do the wrong one. If you want to start reading more, keep a book next to your bed instead of your phone. If you want to stop eating junk food, don't keep it in the house. Willpower is limited, but design is powerful. Set up your life so that the default choices align with your new identity. Emotion plays a huge role in habit formation. We repeat what feels good, even if it's destructive, because it gives us temporary relief. That's why it's so important to find positive habits that not only serve you, but also satisfy you. Replace the reward, not just the behavior. If you're trying to stop emotional eating, don't just restrict food. Find a new way to feel comforted. Go for a walk, call a friend, write in a journal. Breathe deeply. Your brain needs to associate the new habit with a positive emotional payoff, or it won't stick. The process of habit building requires grace. You will slip. You will fall back into old patterns. You will feel discouraged, but that doesn't mean you've failed. One bad day doesn't erase your progress. What matters most is not how perfectly you stick to your habits, but how quickly you return to them after you fall. That return again and again is what builds resilience. You're not aiming for streaks. You're aiming for sustainability. And sustainability means creating habits that fit into your real life, not an idealized version of it. Accountability accelerates habit formation. When you have someone to check in with or something to track your progress, your chances of staying committed increase. It doesn't mean you need external validation, but it helps to create structure and responsibility. Even if it's just journaling your daily wins or using a habit tracker, you're giving your progress a visible path. You're showing yourself proof that change is happening, even if it's slow. And that proof builds momentum. The ultimate goal of building new habits is not to control your life rigidly, but to free your mind from decision fatigue. When your good habits become automatic, you conserve energy for deeper work, creativity, and connection. You no longer waste time battling with yourself about what to do. You just do it because it's who you are now. That's when you know your habits have taken root, not when they feel hard, but when they feel natural. Because now they're no longer something you do, they're a reflection of who you've become. Letting go of the past is one of the hardest yet most freeing parts of rebuilding your life. It's not just about forgetting what happened, but about releasing your attachment to the pain, the identity, and the narrative that's been weighing you down. So many people carry old stories like armor, believing that if they let go, they'll be vulnerable or forget the lesson. But the truth is, holding on too tightly to the past prevents you from stepping into your future. You can't build something new while clinging to what's broken. Rebuilding your life demands emotional uncluttering. It requires you to examine what you've been dragging with you and ask yourself if it still serves you. Painful memories, regrets, betrayal, guilt, and even old versions of yourself that no longer align with who you are becoming, these are the weights that silently hold you back. Most people don't even realize how much of their present is being shaped by unhealed history. They move through life making decisions rooted in past wounds. They build relationships based on fear of abandonment, avoid risks because of past failures, or keep proving themselves because of childhood rejection. It becomes a cycle, repeating the same emotional patterns in different circumstances. Letting go is the conscious decision to interrupt that cycle. It doesn't mean erasing your past or pretending it didn't matter. It means refusing to let it have power over you anymore. It means choosing healing over resentment, growth over grief, freedom over familiarity. Forgiveness is a major part of letting go, and not just forgiveness of others, but of yourself. Many people stay stuck because they can't stop punishing themselves for things they wish they'd done differently. They replay the same mistake over and over as if self-blame could somehow fix the past. But all it does is chain you to it. The truth is, you did what you knew how to do with the awareness you had at the time. You grew, you learned. That is what matters now. Holding on to shame will not make you better. It will only make you bitter. And bitterness has no place in a life you're trying to rebuild from hope. Sometimes the past isn't just emotional, it's physical. Old routines, toxic relationships, environments that keep pulling you back into patterns you're trying to escape. Letting go means making hard choices about what needs to stay and what must be released. That might mean cutting ties with people who drain your energy or changing the spaces that trigger your anxiety. It might mean saying goodbye to a lifestyle that once brought comfort but now keeps you small. Letting go is not abandonment, it's alignment. You're not losing, you're making room. Room for new habits, new people, new opportunities, and a new sense of self-worth. Letting go also means releasing the illusion of control. We often hold on to the past because it's familiar, even if it's painful. We think that by replaying it or clinging to it, we can somehow control how we feel. But control is an illusion. What brings peace is surrender, not giving up, but letting go of what you cannot change and redirecting your energy toward what you can. You can't change what someone did. You can't rewrite the past. But you can choose how you show up now. You can choose how you move forward. And in that choice lies your power. You also have to let go of the timeline you thought your life was supposed to follow. One of the greatest sources of pain is the belief that you should be further ahead, that you're behind, that you missed your chance. But comparison is poison. Life isn't a race. And you're not late. You're exactly where you need to be to learn what you need to learn in order to become who you're meant to be. The past may not have gone how you imagined, but that doesn't mean the future can't surprise you in ways more beautiful than you ever planned. The moment you stop wishing it had been different is the moment you reclaim your power. Letting go is a daily practice. Some days you'll feel like you've moved on. Other days, the memory will hit you like a wave. That's okay. Healing is not linear. You don't have to force closure. You don't have to pretend you're unaffected. You just have to keep choosing to not let the past define you. You have to keep turning your focus toward the life you're building, not the one you lost. And each time you do that, the past loosens its grip a little more. Not because it didn't happen, but because you are no longer willing to stay in the place where it broke you. You are rising step by step, and with each release, you are reclaiming your freedom. Surrounding yourself with positive influences is one of the most transformative decisions you can make while rebuilding your life. The people you allow into your environment shape your thoughts, your beliefs, your energy, and your potential, whether you realize it or not. When you're trying to heal, grow, and become better, being around negativity, drama, and criticism can sabotage your progress. Even if your intentions are pure, you can be doing the internal work, building new habits, and letting go of the past. But if your circle doesn't reflect the new direction of your life, it will eventually pull you backward. Energy is contagious, and if you're constantly exposed to people who drain you, mock your dreams, or keep reminding you of who you used to be, it becomes almost impossible to evolve into your next level. The truth is, not everyone is meant to come with you. Some people are only meant to be part of your past, not your future. This doesn't mean they're bad people. It simply means your paths are no longer aligned. As you grow, your standards change. Your time becomes more valuable. Your peace becomes more sacred. And that means you have to be more intentional about who you give access to your space. This is one of the hardest parts of rebuilding because it often requires walking away from people you love or have known for years. But love without growth is stagnation. Familiarity without respect is limitation. If someone constantly discourages your progress, belittles your efforts, or drains your energy, they are not supporting your healing. They are sabotaging it, whether consciously or not. Positive influence doesn't just mean people who smile and agree with you all the time. It means being around those who challenge you to be better, who hold you accountable without judgment, who see your potential even when you're doubting it yourself. These are the people who remind you of your worth, who reflect the energy you want to maintain, and who live in alignment with the values you're trying to build into your own life. Being around people who are growing makes you want to grow. Being around people who are disciplined makes you want to be disciplined. That's the power of proximity. It raises your standards without you even realizing it. One of the greatest shifts in rebuilding your life is realizing you don't need to fit in anymore. You need to stand out for the right reasons. You don't need a big crowd. You need a solid few. A small, healthy circle will elevate you far more than a large, toxic one. You need friends who cheer for you in private, not just in public. You need mentors who speak life into your vision, not just your comfort zone. And sometimes you need to be your own best influence when nobody else around you gets it. There may be a season where you feel alone in your journey, where the only voices you hear are your own affirmations and the silence of your solitude. But don't mistake that silence for absence. It's preparation. It's alignment. It's the necessary isolation before elevation. It's also important to realize that what you consume is also influencing you. Positive influence isn't just people. It's content, music, books, environments. If your social media feed is filled with comparison, chaos, or negativity, it will affect how you see yourself in the world. If your conversations are always centered on gossip, complaints, and blame, that becomes your mindset. If your daily routine is shaped by distractions and noise, that becomes your normal. So you have to be intentional about feeding your mind the same way you're feeding your body. Choose content that inspires, not exhausts. Choose voices that educate, not manipulate. Choose environments that challenge you to rise, not settle. Building a new support system takes time, and it often starts with making space. When you say no to what drains you, you make room for what fuels you. You may not find your tribe right away. You may go through a lonely stretch, but stay committed to your path. Keep doing the work. Keep aligning yourself with truth and growth. And over time, you'll attract people who resonate with the energy you're creating. People who don't just admire your light, but protect it. People who help you rise without needing to dim your shine. Because when you're surrounded by the right influences, you stop surviving and start thriving. You stop settling and start soaring. You begin to believe deeply and consistently that you are not only capable of rebuilding your life, but that you were never meant to do it alone. One of the most powerful acts in rebuilding your life is embracing discomfort. Most people run from it, avoid it, and distract themselves the moment it shows up. But growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the unfamiliar, the uncertain, and the uncomfortable. That tension you feel when you're doing something new or pushing beyond your limits is not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something's changing. Discomfort is the evidence that you're breaking patterns, shedding old identities, and stepping into a life that demands more from you. If everything feels easy and familiar, you're probably not growing. You're repeating. And if you're rebuilding your life, repetition of the old is not your path forward. You're meant to stretch. You're meant to feel uneasy at times. That's how you know The process of rebuilding is uncomfortable because it requires honesty. You have to confront parts of yourself you may have ignored for years, your fears, your excuses, your self-sabotaging tendencies. It's not easy to sit in silence and face the reality of who you've become and where your choices have led you. But this discomfort is not punishment, it's purification. It strips away the lies, the illusions, the masks you've been wearing just to survive. And once you're stripped down to the truth, you have a clean foundation to rebuild on. Without this stage, anything you try to construct will eventually collapse because it wasn't built on something real. Discomfort also comes with change. When you start shifting your habits, your boundaries, your mindset, it affects everything around you. People might not understand you. They might challenge you, mock you, or even walk away. That's uncomfortable. But the discomfort of losing people who don't support your growth is far less damaging than the comfort of keeping people who keep you small. You cannot stay in environments that suffocate your potential and expect to rise. You must be willing to stand alone if it means standing in truth. You must be willing to disappoint others if it means honoring yourself. That will always feel uncomfortable, but that's where your power is. Another form of discomfort is failure. When you take risks, try new things, or step into unknown territory, you will make mistakes. You will fall short, and that can be humiliating. But failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every time you fail, you learn. Every time you get back up, you build grit. Every time you try again, you strengthen your resilience. Discomfort teaches you what ease never will. It shows you your capacity. It proves to you that you are stronger than you think. The goal is not to avoid failure. It's to develop a mindset that sees failure as feedback, not as defeat. That shift in thinking is where true transformation happens. Many people also feel discomfort when they start putting themselves first, when you begin setting boundaries, saying no, prioritizing your well-being, and choosing peace over people-pleasing. It will feel unfamiliar. You may feel guilt. You may feel like you're being selfish, but that's only because you've been conditioned to believe that your needs don't matter. The discomfort of self-respect is a necessary price to pay for self-worth. It takes courage to rewrite that story. It takes courage to say, I matter too, and live in alignment with that belief. That discomfort eventually transforms into confidence, the kind that no one can give you and no one can take away. There's also discomfort in patience. Rebuilding your life takes time, and the results don't always show up right away. You'll have seasons where you're putting in the work, staying disciplined, making sacrifices, and it looks like nothing's changing. That can feel deeply frustrating. But that's the test. Can you stay committed even when you don't see the reward yet? Can you trust the process when the progress isn't visible? That's the discomfort that builds character. It's where you learn faith, perseverance, and emotional endurance. It's where you stop chasing instant gratification and start developing long-term vision. Discomfort in the waiting season isn't a sign to quit. It's a call to believe harder, to dig deeper, to stay the course even when it's hard. And finally, embracing discomfort means learning to sit with your emotions instead of running from them. Most people use distraction to escape: food, scrolling, noise, drama, because being still with your thoughts can be uncomfortable. But if you want healing, you have to feel. If you want clarity, you have to face the chaos inside you. You can't rebuild a life while avoiding the parts of yourself that hurt. You have to go through it to grow through it. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your invitation to rise, to change, to become everything you were meant to be. Taking responsibility for your life is one of the most empowering steps you can take on your journey to rebuild. It means recognizing that no matter what has happened to you in the past, the choices you make now are yours and yours alone. It's easy to fall into the trap of blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck for where you are. But when you hold on to blame, you give away your power. You become a victim of your situation instead of the architect of your future. Taking responsibility means refusing to let your past define you. It means owning your mistakes without shame, learning from them without regret, and using them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. This level of accountability can be challenging because it requires honesty. It means looking in the mirror and confronting the ways you may have contributed to your difficulties or stayed stuck. It means recognizing patterns in your behavior that have kept you from moving forward. This is not about self-condemnation. It's about saying, what role did I play in this? And what can I do differently going forward? When you start asking that question, you shift from being passive to active. You move from feeling powerless to feeling in control. And that shift is the foundation of every change you want to see in your life. Taking responsibility also means setting clear goals and committing to them. It's easy to dream about a better life, but it takes discipline and follow through to make those dreams a reality. You have to be willing to do the hard work day after day, even when motivation fades. You have to show up for yourself consistently. This means making choices that align with your goals, even when they are uncomfortable or inconvenient. It means prioritizing your growth over instant gratification. It means holding yourself accountable for your progress and your setbacks and not making excuses or blaming others when things don't go as planned. Part of taking responsibility is understanding that you are responsible for your mindset. How you think about yourself and your circumstances shapes your reality. If you believe you are stuck or doomed to fail, that belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you choose to believe you can change, that belief opens the door to possibilities. Your thoughts influence your emotions, and your emotions influence your actions. When you take responsibility for your mental and emotional state, you start to see your life differently. You start to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You start to see challenges as chances to grow, not reasons to quit. Another crucial aspect of responsibility is learning to manage your time and energy wisely. Time is the one resource that everyone has equally, but how you use it determines your success. When you take ownership of your schedule, your priorities, and your daily habits, you gain control over your results. This means saying no to distractions and things that don't serve your goals. It means creating routines that support your growth and well-being. It means being intentional with how you spend each day, knowing that small choices add up to big changes over time. Taking responsibility also involves owning your relationships. The people you surround yourself with impact your life significantly. While you cannot control others, you can control how you respond to them and what boundaries you set. It means choosing relationships that support and uplift you and having the courage to step away from toxic ones. It means communicating honestly and respectfully. It means being responsible for how you show up in your connections and not blaming others for your emotional state. Healthy relationships require mutual responsibility. And by taking ownership of your part, you create space for growth and healing. Moreover, taking responsibility means being proactive rather than reactive. Instead of waiting for life to happen to you, you start making things happen. You seek solutions instead of dwelling on problems. You take initiative in learning new skills, finding new opportunities, and improving your circumstances. When you adopt this mindset, you stop being at the mercy of external forces and become the driver of your destiny. This shift is essential for rebuilding your life because it puts you in the driver's seat rather than the passenger's. It's important to recognize that taking responsibility doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means acknowledging your role while also seeking help and support when needed. Asking for guidance, advice, or professional help is a sign of strength, not weakness. It shows that you are serious about your growth and willing to invest in yourself. Taking responsibility is about owning your journey fully, including the parts where you need others to walk with you. When you take responsibility for your life, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for permission or a miracle and start creating your own success. You build resilience because you understand that setbacks are part of the process, not the end. You develop confidence because you know you have the ability to influence your circumstances through your choices. This mindset becomes the engine that drives every step of your rebuild, turning challenges into opportunities and dreams into reality. Taking responsibility is the moment you stop being a passenger in your own life and become the captain steering toward a brighter future. Consistency is the invisible force that turns dreams into reality. Without it, even the greatest ideas, plans, and ambitions remain just that: ideas, plans, and ambitions. It's easy to feel motivated in bursts, to have moments of enthusiasm where you feel unstoppable. But what separates those who rebuild their lives successfully from those who falter is the ability to show up day after day, especially when the initial excitement fades. Consistency is not about perfection or always feeling inspired. It's about commitment. It's about doing the work even when you don't want to, even when progress seems slow or invisible. It's about understanding that transformation is a process, not an event. Building new habits and routines is the backbone of consistency. When you decide to rebuild your life, you're essentially rewiring your brain, changing patterns that may have been ingrained for years. That can feel overwhelming, but breaking it down into small, manageable actions makes it possible. Consistency doesn't mean massive leaps every day. It means taking small steps that add up over time. It means waking up and choosing actions that align with your goals, no matter how you feel in that moment. Whether it's practicing gratitude, exercising, reading, or working on a skill, doing it regularly builds momentum. That momentum creates a feedback loop where progress fuels motivation, which in turn fuels more progress. One of the greatest challenges to consistency is resistance. Internal voices that tell you to quit, that question your worth, that whisper excuses like "not today" or "I'll start tomorrow." These are natural and human, but consistent people learn to acknowledge them without surrendering to them. They cultivate discipline, which is the ability to do what needs to be done regardless of how they feel. Discipline is like a muscle that strengthens with use. The more you practice showing up for yourself, the easier it becomes to maintain that rhythm. And even when you falter, the key is to get back up quickly instead of letting one slip turn into giving up entirely. Consistency also requires patience. In a world of instant gratification, it's tempting to want quick results, but meaningful change rarely happens overnight. Sometimes you will put in the effort and see no immediate reward. Sometimes progress will be invisible to everyone but you. Staying consistent in these moments is what separates those who eventually succeed from those who quit too soon. Patience and consistency means trusting the process, believing that every small step is contributing to a bigger picture. It's about valuing progress over perfection and understanding that setbacks are part of the journey, not the end of it. Another important aspect is accountability. When you commit to consistency, it helps to have structures in place that hold you responsible. This could be a journal where you track your progress, a friend or mentor who checks in on you, or even a public commitment that motivates you to stay true to your word. Accountability creates external pressure that supports internal motivation. It also helps you celebrate wins, which reinforces your desire to keep going. Building a support system around your goals makes consistency more sustainable because you're not relying solely on your willpower. Consistency is also deeply connected to mindset. If you believe that your efforts won't matter or that change is impossible, you'll be less likely to keep showing up. But when you adopt a growth mindset, the belief that you can improve through effort and learning, you're more likely to persist through challenges. This mindset helps you see failures as feedback rather than defeat and encourages you to keep moving forward despite obstacles. It shifts your focus from immediate results to long-term growth, which is essential for rebuilding your life. It's important to recognize that consistency doesn't mean rigidity. Life will throw curveballs, unexpected events, emotional ups and downs, and moments when you need rest. Consistency is about commitment, not perfection. It's okay to adjust your plans, take breaks when needed, and be flexible with yourself. The key is to return to your routine and goals with renewed energy and determination, Being kind to yourself during setbacks prevents burnout and keeps your momentum sustainable over time. Rebuilding your life step by step through consistency also means celebrating the small victories. Every day you choose to show up as a win, every habit you build, every negative thought you challenge, every boundary you set is progress. These small wins build confidence and reinforce your identity as someone who can and will change. They create a positive cycle where success breeds success. By focusing on these wins instead of perfection or speed, you maintain motivation and resilience. In the end, consistency is what makes transformation real and lasting. It's the daily decisions, the repeated actions, the unwavering commitment to your vision that turn rebuilding from a wish into a reality. It's not glamorous or flashy, but it's powerful beyond measure. When you commit to being consistent, you're telling yourself and the world that you are serious about your growth. You're proving that no matter the setbacks, no matter the distractions, you will keep moving forward. This relentless perseverance creates a foundation so strong that nothing can shake it, and it ultimately leads to the life you're determined to build. Understand this deeply. You may have been broken, but you are not finished. You may have lost, but you are not defeated. Life didn't end. It reset. You are rebuilding step by step, brick by brick, day by day, breath by breath. And one day people will look at you and ask, how did you do it? And you'll smile because they'll never understand the pain you turned into power, the pieces you used to rise, the strength you found when all you had was faith. Your new life is being built right now. Keep going. Keep building step by step, because the comeback will always be stronger than the setback.